If you're having a hard time finding peace and harmony with everything that's going on in the world and wanting to try to find a balance between not putting your head in the sand, not being ignoring everything, but also at the same time being very careful with what you're letting in and how to regulate your nervous system, the cards that came out are super insightful, giving us so many great tips on how to get through this kind of crazy time we're going through. Let's dive in. Today's topic is going to be about, oh, interesting, the Seven of Swords. The Seven of Swords is often about lying, cheating, stealing, maybe hiding something from yourself. I know this card gets a really bad rap usually because it's like as if you're not having a secret being told to you or somebody's keeping you something from you. But I actually always love this card, especially in this deck, because it's kind of like this sly little fox. Maybe you're the one having some fun, not necessarily lying and cheating, but maybe being sneaky, being a little sly. Anyway, so let's find out, because this could go in so many different directions. Let's see what we're going to talk about. What's the focus of this thing? Okay, interesting. We got Temperance. So now we have a totally different story, or at least a different story is coming to me, because Temperance is all about finding moderation and balance and kind of patience, but it's also about taking two things that are kind of almost opposites. Like in this card, it's water and fire, and mixing them into something. It's about alchemizing it to get something bigger, but also to kind of get a healthy balance from it. And so what I'm getting here is that it actually might be the negative part of this card, because about the lying, the cheating, the stealing. And what I'm getting is that it's like when we look around right now in the world, there's a lot of that. It seems as if as soon as you open up like the news, all you see is this, because this card could also be about manipulation, power manipulation, feeling like, things are kind of like against you and that you can't really control it. And so what I'm getting is that this video is going to be about how can we find a healthy balance about what we see when we look out, and what we see when we look out into the world and notice all these things that are kind of seeming super negative and just really corrupt. It all just feels really icky. And at the same time, it's like, I don't know about you, but I find that I'm really sometimes juggling, like finding balance between wanting to be aware. I don't want to be the type of person who's just like ignoring it and putting my head in the sand, not seeing things. And especially I don't want to be a bystander and be like, oh no, that doesn't affect me. But at the same time, I want to be so careful with what I put in. What do I put into my body and my vibration? Because we are always hearing about what you listen to or look at is what actually you're going to be calling in. And so it's up to us also to be very mindful with what we do. So that is the topic today. Let's have a look at what we can go explore with this topic. Well, I'm personally wanting to see, well, like, how can we find a better balance? Like, what can we do to find balance between the two, between both protecting our energy, but also by, wanting to be aware so that we can actually take action on that too. Okay, interesting. Two cards wanted to come out for that. We got the Four of Wands and the Mother of Cups. So let's start with the Four of Wands. The Four of Wands is all about celebration, homecoming, and community. And what I'm getting here is that, in a way, yes, it's important to, first of all, to find a good balance. It's important to, when we open the news, to see what's going on for sure, but also not to neglect everything that is to be celebrated. There are wins happening. I know personally, for example, on my Instagram, I follow a person who is actually showing good news that happens too. Like every week there's 5 things that like are to be celebrated in the world news that didn't make the actual news. And so to me, it's all about making sure that you actually see the balance out there and not focus only on the negative news, because a lot of the news that we see when we open it up is very negative, very stress and fear oriented. And so just to remember to have a healthy balance and to look for some of the things to celebrate too. I also think, though, that this card is about community, and I'm getting a lot of different messages about community here. First of all, though, is that to remember that like the community is really good too. Like we can have a tendency sometimes to be like, oh my God, the world is going bad. There's so many bad people out there. But actually, when I look around, I see my community is really doing a lot of things to be good, and that it's about also really focusing on what you can do and remembering that the community as a whole can have huge powers. We tend to think like when we go down to our own little things like, oh, well, what can I do? Nothing I can do can help, but the community can. When we join up as a group, a lot of things can happen, and that can be really positive. So to remember to trust the community. I'm also getting two things though here that could actually be opposites, and it will be up to you to decide and see which one feels more true to you. So with regards to community, again, especially what I'm getting though is that maybe it will be important for you to reach out to community so that you can talk and express your fears and your thoughts about what's going on, so that you don't just kind of stay home alone and think about it and kind of get into this funk. That will help you find balance. But on the other hand, it could also be that maybe the people that you hang out with or certain friends are actually a community that is actually kind of fear inducing or kind of like really, really negative about what's going to happen. And so I think the community part is to make sure that you don't stay alone, but also choose who you share and who you talk to right now, because it will have a huge influence on the way you see things. I know personally, I have some friends right now, and they're really good friends, but I know that like certain subjects we have to really be careful when we talk, because we see things the same way. It's just that we don't, there's a lot of stress and fear coming out of one person in particular, and I just want to be very mindful about that energy. I don't want to put my head in the sand again. That's not what I'm trying to do. I'm not trying to do the toxic positivity thing. But I also don't think that going down the just fear route is going to be very helpful. So be mindful of that. Let's have a look at this card. The Mother of Cups is a card of compassion and lots of love, unconditional love. And what I'm getting from this card is though how to find a balance is to make sure that you give yourself a lot of love right now, a lot of unconditional love. I also think it's about maybe having unconditional love and sending love to the people who don't have our opinions and who don't always share our opinions. Like my friend, for example. I'm not to get into this thing where you start having like another antagonistic thing, and to remember to keep choosing love and kind of like a lot of like healing powers. But this card is also about making sure that you fill your own cup. This card especially. It's about making sure that you are very mindful right now about making sure that your cup is filled. You have to put your oxygen mask on before you can do anything else. So in order to find balance, in this whole thing about the like looking out and seeing everything going on in the world, make sure that you do things that regulate your nervous system, that help you calm down. What is that? Is that meditating? Is it journaling? Is it going for walks? Is it seeing friends and community, or is it not seeing friends and community? Is it taking up a new hobby where you don't think about any of these things? Is it playing an instrument? Is it going out and doing tons of exercise? But it's all about making sure that you fill your own cup, so that when things are kind of outside and kind of going up and down and you don't know in which direction things are going, you will feel regulated and safe. I also love this particular card in this deck. I really feel like she's doing a magic trick over this cup. And so what I'm also getting here is not to forget the power that we have, but also the power, again, that community can have. And that as we work on ourselves and as we nourish our own cups and as we do the practices that help us be grounded, in a way, we're also doing things to help others. Because if we sweep our side of the street, again, like it might not seem like a lot, but when everybody does, the effects are huge. And we can't underestimate what doing work on ourselves can do. I saw this study the other day. Somebody went and was doing some meditation in the metro, and all of a sudden, like the vibration went up. And they've done studies like that where like people who meditate, like in certain areas, like crime can go down, or like people can have really better outcomes at the hospital. So it's like not to underestimate the magic that we can have when we actually concentrate on ourselves. So I think those two cards are really awesome advice. I'm really curious now to see maybe what we're not seeing and that seeing would help us through this moment, because there's a lot of chaos out there. So let's have a look. Okay, two other cards wanted to come out. We got Death card and the Eight of Pentacles. So I actually love seeing the Death card come up here, because to me, death is really about new chapters and the end for things for sure. Something is dying. But to me, I see it as like the world order or the way things used to be. And that, yes, that can be scary because it means that something is going to have to come to an end, but it always promises a new beginning. And so what I see from that is that it's like what we're not seeing is that the death is there. Things are happening, change, because death is also a card that you can't control. It comes for everybody. It's not something where you can be like, okay, yay, I need a new slate. So here, showing up is actually, I find, really nice and reassuring, because it's like things are going to change. Things are changing. We might not see it. We might not see that it's already come to an end, but it is. And then we got this card. This card is actually, I find, a little bit more perplexing. What are we not seeing with the Eight of Pentacles? The Eight of Pentacles is about honing your craft, about like craftsmanship, like doing a task over and over so that you become perfect at it. And in a way, I feel like it's kind of linked to these two cards, though, because it's like, again, what I just said, like when we concentrate on ourselves and we're concentrating on our own craft, we don't always think it's going to really have an effect. But with this, we can build this beautiful web, this thing that's going to be, really safe for us, but also very helpful for other people. I also think it's the web. We're part of a web. We're part of something bigger. We're part of this community. And that if we can see how when we do our small part, it can become this huge web where we're all interconnected. Again, I think it's about seeing. So what you're not seeing and that could be helpful is that seeing that by working on whatever you're working on is actually going to have a larger effect. That could be helpful. Just to remember that even if you're focusing perhaps on something and you're doing your task and you can't even see how this would ever be helpful, well, it is. So just to trust that, I also love the fact that, like, in science, webs are almost magical. And I feel like that's linked to this card too, that magic thing. Science doesn't even know how they do the webs. They've tried to recreate what a spider web is made of, and they can't. It's super strong. It's super resistant. And yet we can't, there's something magical about it. And so again, it's like building that strong and magical thing that when we see a spider web in nature, we're like, oh, that's not that big of a deal. But it's this really powerful kind of crazy thing. So as we're building our web and building our craft, not to underestimate that. And as a last card, I would like to just pick a message of love from our guides and our higher self right now, because there's a lot going on and it's kind of crazy and it can feel really overwhelming. And so I just feel like having one last card, having one last card to just bless us on our journey would be helpful. What better card? The Fool. Beautiful here. The Fool is about new beginnings and new chapters starting. And so it couldn't be better to come after this card. And I love actually how there's actually been a bird theme throughout this reading, with that first bird coming from Temperance. And then it's almost like it transformed into this Mother of Cups. And then somehow there has to be a death. And so there is something scary in that death, because what we always have known is going to change. It's going to die. It's going to disappear. But look, after the death, what comes? A little chick. This couldn't be more perfect. I love it when tarot does that. And so it's like, just to trust. I think it's about trusting that from everything that's happening, all the chaos out there, all the fear, all the stress, all the imbalance maybe that we feel, maybe even not really knowing how to kind of find that balance, how to kind of deal with everything that's going on, just to trust that there will be a new beginning. Of course, new beginnings don't come without their own lot of learning, suffering, whatever, because the Fool is always promising a new cycle, a new beginning, something where we're going to have to learn new things. We're going to have to, like, in this new order after the death, whatever is going to die, we're going to have to create new ways, think of new things. We're also going to have to take risks and be brave and jump off that branch so we can learn to, like, build our new wings, learn to fly again. So, but I love this as this last message for us. I find that there's just a lot of trust in this whole reading, and just to remember that, the universe has our back. We will be finding this, like, wonderful little Fool again. The new chapter is starting soon, so just hang in there. So I'm hoping that this reading has brought you a lot of hope, trust, maybe some solutions also right now as you navigate these kind of crazy times. I'm sending you lots of laughter and lots of love, and I'll see you next video. Thanks so much for watching.